I didn't do it right. All right, let's just edit that out and try it again. All right. All right, we ready? Okay, this time for real. Converted man here. All right, that's what people expect. All right, I'm gonna be an avatar today. Whatever. All right, does evil and suffering disprove God? Yes. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Then with that entity, I will reign with blood and horror on this earth.
Depart.
Let me begin today with the central idea right up front rather than making you wait for it. That being, the existence of suffering does not automatically disprove God. From a Latter-day Saint perspective, suffering and evil may actually be evidence that moral agency is actually real.
Okay, well, from Latter-day Saints perspective, all right. So, I mean, I don't know why I should care since I'm not that. But I guess this is made for Latter-day Saints people, like answering from his position, I suppose. But evil or suffering, these aren't necessarily moral attributes. Suffering definitely isn't. Evil might be. Hello, skeptic philosophy, waving. I guess it just depends on what you think evil is or what suffering entails. Evil is, actions usually, I suppose, performed by agents who could do otherwise. So I suppose that falls under moral category. But suffering seems to be an attribute that animals of all sorts can have happen to them. It's unclear what level of agency is required to suffer. Like, I don't know if a worm has feelings or can suffer, or if a spider can suffer. But certainly, bigger animals, rabbits, cats, dogs, cows, bigger things. Can whales suffer? Sure. What about other, non-mammals? It's hard to say. Can a fish suffer? I don't know these answers. But it doesn't necessarily bring up morals, but it's better to put in that morals, that way he can smuggle in God, I guess.
And meaningful. If agency is real, then the possibility of wrong choices must be real too. And if wrong choices are real, then suffering becomes possible.
Well, suffering doesn't depend solely on actions or inactions of humans or other animals or insects or any other living creature. Even trees which are alive, like the tree doesn't decide that it wants to fall down one day because it got hit by a lightning. The lightning wasn't alive. The lightning just did what lightning does, hit the tree. The tree wanted to keep living and didn't know that it was going to get hit by lightning, didn't know that was going to cause it to fall down. And then that tree happened to land on somebody and crushed them, but didn't kill them, but that definitely inflicted suffering. And what choices were involved there? It was just completely random, as far as I can tell. So this doesn't apply to every type of suffering that one can conceive of. Only interactions between moral agents would be ones where suffering can be seen in this way. Like I punch you, that causes suffering in my fist because you are quite hard. It also causes suffering in you to some extent because my fist is quite hard, and depending on where I hit you, it could do significant damage. And then because you have encountered pain, you will then kick me, and that will hurt me, and it will go back and forth and will cause great suffering because I decided to to punch you for whatever reason, you know. So and it's like, well, was that a choice? Well, we're assuming that it is, it might be that you tapped me on the shoulder, surprised me, I turned around real fast and spun around and hit you, and that was a mistake. I didn't mean to do it, I didn't want to do it, but I just did it out of complete shock and surprise. And then you kicking me happens as a result of that, and then we're in a fight before you know it. Was that a choice I made? Can you really decide not to be scared? So did I make a jump by doing that? I don't know. Maybe I did. I don't know. But we can't choose some of our actions. So this just doesn't really resolve the problem.
Because God delights in his children experiencing and feeling pain, but because he's made freedom genuine. Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name's Martin Braden, and this is part of an ongoing video series I'm doing called Faith, Reason, and the Search for Truth, where we're actually examining the deepest questions about God, meaning, and belief.
His audio seems to be coming out my left ear more than my right, or my audio is weird. I'm not sure. Anyways.
For your convenience, I've set up a playlist titled Faith, Reason, and the Search for Truth, where I'm saving all of the videos from this series. Today, we're going to turn to one of the most emotionally powerful challenges to anyone having a belief in God, the problem of suffering and evil.
All right, and I might have to make a playlist too, because it's like the third video I've done. I thought he was going to be done with this series, but nope, he keeps on going.
You've likely heard it framed like this: if God is good, and if God is all-powerful, as people of faith say he is, then why does suffering exist? Why is there so much disease, and why is there so much injustice, cruelty, and natural disasters, especially when it comes to innocent children?
Yeah, the problem of evil is it depends, but it can be framed in many ways, that an all-powerful, all-loving being existing is contrary to the fact that there is widespread pain and suffering. Forget about evil. That doesn't matter. I'll focus just purely on the pain and suffering. So by love, we mean the sort of love that we have for our fellow humans, our family, our children, our spouse, our husband, our significant other, our pet chihuahua, our lobster, etc. So we love them, we care for them, we want to protect them, we want to keep them safe. If we built the world, we would build it in a very different way. In fact, I brought this up way long ago last time I talked about this sort of thing, but Rick and Morty show. You have Rick Francis, who's this genius. He creates this land for his daughter to mess about in, and you can fall down. Doesn't matter. The ground is bouncy. You can put your head in water. Doesn't matter. The water is air, and it tastes yummy, and you can drink it. And there's rainbows in this beautiful land, and everything is safe. There is a flaw in it, but it doesn't matter. He didn't expect the flaw, because the flaw was due to the guy that she left there performing actions that he hadn't prepared for, because he made it for her, not for this other guy. Anyways, so he can make a world where there is no pain, there is no suffering that can be inflicted upon by any behavior you might have. So then why would a god build a world where suffering and pain is part of the living process? And so then the conclusion must be that God is not all loving and or all powerful. It can be one or the other, but it cannot be both. It must be semi loving or semi powerful, but not all loving and not all powerful. So it negates that particular version of God only.
This is not an abstract philosophical puzzle. This is personal. In fact, a lot of people don't reject God because of science. They've rejected him because of all the suffering they see throughout the world. And that reality deserves to be met with empathy and seriousness rather than dismissal or shallow answers. Everyone who
Just to clarify, I don't reject God because that would imply that there's evidence of God. Like, I know skeptic philosophy, and if I invited him for tea, he could reject that invitation or accept it, I cannot accept an invitation from Blargle sauce. I don't even know that Blargle sauce is a thing. So it's like, oh, you're rejecting Blargle sauce. What? No, I'm not. So, and also, I don't dismiss the possibility of God because of pain and suffering. I dismiss it because there's no evidence for it.
who lives long enough encounters suffering, either directly or through the suffering of someone they love. That's why this question deserves our serious consideration. It deserves humility and it deserves honesty.
Yeah,
It should
answer
never
the
be
question.
dismissed with slogans, and it should never be answered with shallow platitudes.
All right. So, who wants to bet that he's going to offer shallow platitudes and slogans? Come on, say it's all sin's fault. Say it's the fallen world. Adam and Eve, they ate that fruit. Oh, man. And then God got upset and couldn't stand it. And that's when the world fell apart after that because of one sinful act. And then God just come on, do it. All right.
Elder Neil A. Maxwell once said, if pain
Ah.
were not real, faith would not be tested. If sorrow were not real, growth would not be real.
Yeah, he loves quoting people. I have no idea who the hell they are. Elder Neil, whatever. This is a Latter-day Saint thing. It's like, it reminds me of the Catholic thing where it's like, here, appeal to this authority and that authority and whatever. I guess it would work in an essay if you actually knew who these people were and cared, but I don't. And I don't. So, yeah, there's somebody I've never seen before. Wow, how could I say this name? Meg Chicago 210. We'd have a cosmos where entropy, mutation, decay, and biological risk are built into the system. And in this view, God allows the world's stable natural laws, and some same laws make life possible, also make disease possible. Yeah. So God made this universe in this way and knew that it would be this way, and so is completely at fault for all the suffering that we encounter. But anyways, he thinks that if pain were not real, faith would not be tested. Well, why does faith need to be tested at all? And also, why do you need faith instead of facts? I don't need faith. I have facts. I don't need to have faith in things when I have facts about them. I don't need to believe in stuff. I can know that stuff is true. There might be things I have faith in. I can believe that tomorrow will be better than today, or I can believe that I will win the lottery or whatever, whether or not that's true. I can have these beliefs as long as I know they're just beliefs and I don't try to make them be more than that. And that might give me hope to keep going another day or whatever. Also, I have a talk scheduled for tomorrow, so I definitely have to be there for that. So that keeps me going. But at any rate, another stuff. Okay, it's not just YouTube that keeps me going. I have other things like the video game I'm playing. I have to win that. So, I mean, that's something to look forward to. I was just kidding. All right. But anyways, what was I saying? Right. Yeah. Faith is faith. So I don't know about why I need faith or why I needed to be tested. Like, that's just silly. And then, you get the situation where, somebody like, skeptic philosophy, the child is born with all these diseases and stuff. Oh, that's to test the parents' faith. But what if they don't have faith? What if they're atheists or agnostic? Or what if there's some other religion? So is God testing their faith in that religion? Or in the case of the atheist agnostic, what is God testing there? See, this doesn't really, it's like, so then God is producing this suffering so that the non-faith of the atheist and agnostic can be tested? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't really cover the wide variety of human experience. Not to mention all the other animals that encounter suffering in the world. You know, it's like the cat doesn't know why it's on fire, you know, or why it's suffering. And that's certainly not testing its faith, you know. And you know, look, maybe the cat rolled around in some gasoline after I knocked the gasoline over by actually just pouring it on the cat. But I mean, technically, it wasn't really. And then I had to happen to have the lighter, and yeah, I don't know what happened, but the cat was on fire. That's all I know. And you know, I was just trying to do an experiment that cats hate fire, but they also hate water. So I was wondering, like, would the cat jump into the water to stop from being on fire? And the answer was that the cat just ran around on fire and then died. So inconclusive. I need more cats. But I kind of like cats, so I think I'm going to use dogs next. But dogs don't hate water, so it kind of ruins the whole thing. But I still want to see what happens if I light a dog on fire. It's going to produce suffering. But is that going to make the dog's faith stronger? I don't know. Also, am I responsible for that suffering? I mean, yeah, sure. But I'm a good and loving creator that made the dog in this scenario that this is widely hypothetical and hyperbolic, and I really didn't do this. Please don't come after me. ASB, whatever the thing is, the ASPCA, is that it? The animal protection thing, you know. Those people that kill more animals than anyone else, you know how I'm talking about.
Many people assume that suffering disproves the existence of God. But before we accept that conclusion, we need to carefully examine the reasoning behind it. Because the argument from evil rests on an assumption that often goes unspoken. The assumption is this: if God exists, then God should have created a world with no pain, no opposition, no danger, and no tragedy. But we need to pause and ask a deeper question. Would such a world even be capable of producing meaningful human lives?
Sure, why not? But it's interesting because you also posit a perfect world later on. In fact, well, if you took the Bible literally, which we shouldn't, you have the Garden of Eden, which was a perfect world. And then you're proposing a perfect world after everything is done. So in both cases, you have a possibility that God makes a perfect world, both at the start and then at the end. So then humans can't do anything they can't grow.
Would such a world even be capable of producing meaningful human lives?
Yeah, so Adam and Eve couldn't have a meaningful human life if the Garden of Eden had continued. So that means God made a perfect world that wasn't very good. But then that also means that the meaningfulness of life will not exist in the paradise of the afterlife. You see how this all breaks down?
From a Latter-day Saint perspective, the answer is no. The Book of Mormon teaches something profound
Yeah,
about the very
I'm
structure
sure.
of reality. Lehi taught it must needs be that there is an opposition in all things. See 2 Nephi 2, verse 11. The qualities we admire most in human beings, courage, resilience, mercy, sacrifice, perseverance, simply cannot exist in a world where nothing meaningful is at stake.
How do you know that, though? And also, I don't necessarily find those attributes more worthy of praise as any other attributes that human holds. So this all assumes that we care what your book says, which I don't.
Lehi explains that without opposition, there would be no agency. Without
How do you know
agency,
that?
there would be no accountability. And so if there's no real possibility of choosing wrongly, then there is no real
All right.
possibility of choosing rightly.
So
In
there
other words,
is
if there's no risk, there's no courage. If there's no pain, there's no compassion. And if there's no difficulty, there's no growth. Think on that for a moment. Let it sink in.
Uh-huh.
A world without suffering would not be a world of moral beings. It would be a world of programmed creatures.
Oh no.
Robots, in other words.
How
Now,
horrible.
let me be very clear. This does not make suffering easy. It does.
But why would it be that way? Like, you're just assuming things. And why would that world be so bad? Like, isn't that what God wanted anyways? None of this makes sense. Anyways.
Not make tragedy acceptable. It does not erase grief. It does not remove heartbreak.
Right.
But it does change the logic. The
No.
presence of suffering isn't evidence that God doesn't exist. It's actually evidence that moral agency itself is real.
So see, switching from suffering to moral agency, which one has nothing to do with the other. And again, this is against a very particular version of God, an all-loving, all-powerful God. This guy is proposing that God is some precept nonsense of the grounding of being itself, and it doesn't tinker from the outside, whatever that means. That's nice. Yeah, but it still made everything the way it is. And so it's still responsible for this stuff, and it's still ultimately accountable for things being bad. So that God, that version of God, is still responsible for suffering of all living creatures, and so it might be very powerful, but it's certainly not all loving. Yeah. Now I'll critique the whole book. I mean, its claims are nonsense. I mean, there's nothing really more to critique, and I actually am critiquing the book too, because if you go with Genesis, God makes a perfect world, but then Adam and Eve couldn't grow as people, and also couldn't be accountable for the sin that they do that sets off the whole chain of events. Oh yeah, that makes sense.
President Russell M. Nelson taught, agency is God's gift to his children. It is fundamental to our progression, end quote.
How do you know that, though? I mean, it's just something somebody said. How do you know that? How do you know that that's true?
Progression implies growth, and growth requires resistance. In other words, refinement cannot occur in a perfectly comfortable environment.
How do you know?
And here's where this connects directly to something we explored in the previous video. Atheist Richard Dawkins and others have argued that God should simply make himself unmistakably visible so the debate could be settled once and for all.
Yeah, that would be good. That would settle the debate. If God was accessible to the entire world at all times, then nobody would, very few people would doubt what God is and how God works. I think that there would still be people, given that people believe in nonsense like flat Earth and the Earth not being, 4.54 billion years old, and denying other aspects of science. So it wouldn't surprise me if people didn't believe that it was actually God. Some people would believe it was the government or aliens, or because it wasn't their version of God, they would think it was a test of God to see if they were faithful to the real God, who's going to show up any moment now. Meanwhile, God's there going, look, no, I'm the real God. Like you like I did all that. And it's like, well, but God would know what proves God to you, so it would just do that. Sure. Or it could just make you accept that it's God by changing your brain. There you go. But so could an alien creature. So I'll be like, if you say you're God and you can do stuff that's like amazing, okay, sure, whatever, you're God. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. A label isn't important. What do you want? And the God then says, well, I need this. Really? Why? What do you need with that? I need a starship. What does God need with a starship? What do you need with my love and or worship or praise or adoration? What do you need with my friendship? You don't need anything. You don't need me. Not even a little. So you needing anything disqualifies you as being God then. Oh, okay. It wanting anything also, doesn't that disqualify you from being God? Unless God is not all perfect and has everything. Unless God is a needy creature. And I'm like, all right, well, that's nice. Yeah. Don't know what I can do for you. I mean, you can make stuff. So make a creature that will love you, I guess. Oh, but I want you to love me. Then be worth my love then. Be something that I would love. I mean, you can't make me love you. That's for sure. But then again, God could appear as a thing that I would love, couldn't it? So it's just, none of the, whatever. Anyways.
But that demands overlooks something crucial. If God's existence was made mathematically undeniable, irrefutable, in other words, belief would no longer be meaningful choice.
Oh no! But belief isn't a choice. That's the thing. You can't choose to decide I'm a lobster just like that. Over time, maybe you could convince yourself I'm a lobster. But it would take some time and energy, wouldn't it? Okay, so yeah, that just talking about what he thinks God is in chat. I'm just ignoring that. Whatever. But yeah, so if God shows up, then you don't have a choice but to believe in God. Yeah, exactly. I would know that there's a God without a shadow of doubt. But I could choose to associate or not associate with God. Like, I know for sure the web expert exists. No doubt in my mind. So what is the problem with the choice to, hey, I want to hang out with you or not today, I can't make that choice with God because I don't even know that it exists. And this has absolutely nothing to do with pain and suffering, as far as I can tell. So this is a weird red herring.
It would simply be compliance with overwhelming, irrefutable evidence. In other words, if God's existence were probable in the same way physical facts are probable, agency itself would collapse, for we would be compelled to believe. Belief would no longer be chosen or a choice.
Oh, no.
It would be a compelling to believe.
So? And why would that be a problem? Why is that so bad? Why would it be so bad that we all knew God existed for real? No. He just says this as if it's like, okay, and what's your argument?
And the opposite is also true. If God's non-existence were provable with absolute certainty, meaning especially the meaning of life itself would simply collapse. Moral obligation would become an illusion, and the hope beyond death would become a total and complete fiction. Love.
So Adam and Eve didn't have this, nor did Noah or Abraham or all the people that knew God. I think I'll put this comment as so all the people in the Bible that knew God didn't have agency. In fact, I think he brought up this whole thing before. The same thing. It doesn't follow. Like, how do you simultaneously think that Job has agency but absolutely knows God exists, or the disciples, or Jesus, or Joseph Smith, or Oliver Cowdery? Well, Joseph Smith for sure. Oliver Cowdery, not as much, but Joseph Smith knew God existed. So his agency is then removed. He doesn't have choice anymore. What does this have to do with suffering again?
Love that is compelled is not love. Obedience.
Yeah, you're right. Love that's compelled isn't love. So God threatening to punish you forever by not loving him is not love. Yeah, I agree. So your God is not a God of love. Okay, cool. Thanks for proving that.
Obedience that is forced is not righteousness. Faith that has no alternative is not faith at all. This is why God doesn't force us to love him.
What?
What we find
Yeah, it does. What are you talking about? It doesn't force you to love him? Yes, it absolutely does by implied threat. Well, I don't know. The Mormon belief might be different, so I'm not sure. Faith in me. What are you talking about? This has nothing to do with evil and suffering. It's so weird. Why are we talking about this?
Is living in instead is a world where neither position is coercively provable.
What?
And that is not a design flaw. It is, in
Yeah,
fact,
it is.
from a Latter-day Saint perspective, precisely the point. It's on purpose. This world is structured to preserve moral agency for a very specific reason.
Okay, so you think that if you had proof, there'd be certainty, which would be great, but there'd also be coercion. I don't know what do you mean? Well, like, because we would know for sure that God's going to punish us or reward us. Instead, we have faith, but that meaning isn't the opposite of coercion because you still have coercion. If you believe that God's going to reward you for believing in it and punishing you for not believing in it and also following it and all those other things, then you're still being coerced. This thing makes no sense. Make it make sense.
Belief can now be meaningful because it can be chosen, just like love for another person is very meaningful because it is chosen. Richard Dawkins says he cannot choose to believe because there is, in his worldview, so much evidence against choosing. But
no. Look, you're completely misquoting Dawkins. I'm sure. But also, it doesn't matter what Dawkins said. This is the continual problem this guy has. He half remembers what he thinks Dawkins said. Just like, why not just attack like actual things that people have actually said? Like have it on the screen or something,
In everyday life, we constantly choose what evidence we trust, what experiences we honor, and what interpretations we accept. And
yeah. I accept actual evidence, not like non-evidence. I mean, and I constantly do that. I prefer to take medication that I know is FDA approved because there's a process that it had to go through to get that, as opposed to medication that has not been FDA approved because it didn't go through under any testing at all. So yeah, I do that all the time. What's your point?
Take ownership of. Belief is not a switch you can just turn on and off. It is a posture of the soul. Using this.
Well, yeah, but now you're contradicting yourself again. It's like it's not a thing you turn off and off. Right. So it's not a choice. What the hell? It doesn't make sense.
Metaphor is to describe something real, but hard to capture in purely technical language. A posture of the soul is about orientation, not just opinion. It's not just what you think, it's how you are oriented toward truth. Two people can hear the same evidence, right? One leans toward openness, humility, willingness to consider. The other leans towards resistance, cynicism, unwillingness to engage.
Yeah.
That difference is not
What's
just
your argument?
intellectual, it's dispositional. A posture of the soul includes things.
There's okay, prove a soul, and my posture has nothing to do with it. It's demanding empirical evidence or a repeatable test or a sound argument, which you have failed to provide here at all. So that's it. That's my standard. It's the standard for everything, or it should be. That you don't have it is a you problem. Meanwhile, there's a priest up in chat. Lovely. I'm just going to ignore him. Screw it. I'm not dealing with it.
It's like, are you open to being wrong? Are you?
Yes. Are you? Are you open to being wrong? Because I don't think you are.
Are you willing to sincerely seek? Are you humble enough to ask questions?
Are you? Yes. Yes, I am. I am. But that's irrelevant because the question asking or whatever the evidence looking needs to be fulfilled in order to meet these requirements, regardless of the question involved. If you cannot meet the burden of proof, I ignore your claim. The end. That's how that goes. Yeah, you are.
Are you willing to act on what you learned? Are you receptive to spiritual impressions? In Alma 32, it says,
What the hell is a spiritual impression?
even if you can no more than desire to believe, let that desire work in you.
Huh?
That's posture. It's the
What?
orientation of the heart toward
Eh.
belief, even before certainty arrives.
What? I don't know what any of that means. Look, either you have evidence or you don't. That has nothing to do with my heart or feelings or anything like that. My feelings are completely and wholly irrelevant. This is you will know that there are spirits when you open your mind to the spirits. Okay. Mind is open to the spirits. Do you see them? No. It's because you're not open-minded enough. Okay. I guess not. Oh well. Moving on then. You will believe when you believe. Yeah, that's true. So there's no proof. Basically, that's all he's saying. There's just no proof. All right.
Moroni 10 says,
But we are so far off the topic of evil and suffering. Are we ever going to get back to it? Oh, well. Moroni says whatever. Okay, macaroni.
ask God with a sincere heart, with real intent.
Yeah. It's been done. I've done that many times. It doesn't work. It doesn't do anything. But see, this is the stupid little thing. With sincere heart and real intent. That's something that only I can know. That is not something that anyone else can know. I know I'm sincere. I know that it's true intent, but nobody else can know that. But then they can always say, it wasn't sincere enough. You didn't really have a pure intent. You didn't do it in the right way. You didn't say the right words. You didn't do it enough times. You didn't do it humbly enough. And why should any of that matter even a little, by the way? Yeah, I like, hey, the web expert, post in chat, lobsters exist. And because he's a nice guy and he likes me sometimes, and he's my, he'll probably do it. Now, I'm not going to bet money that he'll do it, but, he'll probably do it. Eventually, if he gets around to posting lobsters exist, but anyways, my intent, my sincerity, whatever, see right here. Yeah. Fuck off. Yeah. This guy right here. Yeah. If it's ever suck, I was sincere heart despite complaining to do it. Yeah. See, you can always do that bullshit, right? You can always move the goalpost back. No matter what, you can, you didn't do it. It wasn't sincere. No matter what you claim, it wasn't sincere. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, you can always do that. No matter how sincere I know I was in the past, no matter how intently I know, you can always say that. And it makes you feel better. Oh, yeah, no, you didn't really mean it. You didn't really sincere. Oh, yes, please tell me more about what I seek. I love when people tell me what I seek. Yeah, tell me more about myself. Hey, you didn't post lobsters exist, dang it. Oh, well. Anyways, yeah, so this is the ask this with a sincere heart, and then it will happen. No, it won't. I've done it before, and I'll do it again I put the lobster on my head or on my hand. And I say, hey, God, please make it levitate. Doesn't happen every time. You can say, well, that wasn't sincere. You didn't really want it. You don't know that. There's no way to test that. So this is just a psychological way to pretend that somebody didn't really mean it, even though they did, because if they really meant it, then it would have happened. But because it didn't happen for them, they must have not really meant it. So you read Langston Hughes' essay called Salvation. He makes it pretty damn clear. He wanted Jesus to come, but it didn't happen. Well, he must have not really wanted it. He really did. But you can always feel better about yourself by pretending that no, he didn't really want it. That way you preserve your own mental belief that you yourself are safe from ever losing faith. Because that's a terrifying concept, to lose your faith. Oh no, that's scary. Yay, there we go. Finally, took you long enough. Yay, it did it. It worked. See? It worked. It had nothing to do with my sincerity or anything. All right. Anyway, so why does God need all this bullshit? Because it's not a thing. That's why. Anyways.
So again, it's not just intellectual inquiry.
Yeah. Right. It's bullshit. Right. It's not just intellectual inquiry. You've got to believe that the tarot cards actually do stuff. See, it's not. Look, you're asking for all this evidence that works. You know, you're just being. Look, it's not intellectual. Yeah, there's some intellect in there. You know. You have to understand the time card. When I flip it over this way, means this thing. But when I flip it over the other way, it means this other thing. And yes, that will change depending on the other cards. Do you have all this written down? No. You see, because the mystical energy has to flow within us, and you're blocking it by all these skeptical questions. You can't be intellectual. You have to be open to this for it to work. In other words, you have to buy into bullshit. Got it. No problem.
It's an inner orientation. In the Doctrine and Covenants, section 9, we read, "You must study it out in your mind. Then you must ask me, the Lord." This requires effort plus openness plus sincerity, which equals posture. Why this matters for belief is because belief isn't formed only by logic. It's formed by character.
Has it ever been formed by logic at all?
Experience, humility, willingness, desire, trust, memory, and lastly, interpretation. Two people can see the same facts and land differently because their posture towards truth is different.
No.
That doesn't mean one is dishonest. It means belief involves more than raw data.
No, it's only raw data. That's all that matters, baby. It's nothing to do with emotions. It's just the data. That's all that matters. This all just proves to me that this guy has zero data at all. So, yeah.
In everyday language, it's like this. A posture of the soul is leaning towards
Okay,
hope.
he's just repeating himself. Is he's does he ever get back on topic?
Instead of cynicism. It's the difference between if God is real, I want to know, versus there is no God and I'm not open to considering otherwise.
Man. Well, your version of God is not real. I can tell you that. I don't know. Maybe a different version of God is real, but this guy's version isn't. And how could I be so sure of that? Well, his God is so far the way that he hasn't actually described his version of God, to be fair. He's just saying things kind of loosely about his religion-ish, but he hasn't said much about God. But his attempt to disprove the disproof has failed so radically that he switched topics. So now we're in a completely different topic that had nothing to do with pain and suffering. And now is all about evidence and your feelings. And if you have the wrong feelings, you won't get to God. So you have to have these feelings be open. Well, I would like to know if there's a God or not. Now, I'm not going to put it the way that his little poster put it. If God is real, I want to know. If there's no God, no opening to considering otherwise. Yeah, well, that's your position would actually be there is a God, and I'm not open to considering otherwise. There you go. That would be the true meme. But I would like to know whatever that is, whatever the reality of the situation of the world is. I would love to know that. And in order to give me that information, you're going to need to provide a sound argument, which you didn't do. And Pavlin, why can't I have feelings open to other made-up fictional characters like the Tooth Fairy? Yeah, absolutely, you can. Yeah, you can have open feelings about those. Like, I want to know if there is or isn't a Tooth Fairy. But what does my emotions have to do with that desire? See, that's the part that I'm being extra skeptical about. Not the idea of God, but the idea that my emotions matter even a little bit. And this really this really brings to mind a lot of talks I've had in the past, a lot of encounters I've had with different beliefs and of different people, that this attitude of cynicism or skepticism or doubt somehow messes the spirits up. They really don't like it. People will call it negative vibes or negative energy or evil energy or something like that. Ghosts are scared of skeptics for some reason. Ghosts vanish when a skeptic walks in the room because of the aura of the skeptic. And people told James Randi stuff like this. They said, look, if you're around, it won't work. The magic will stop functioning if he's there. So he would just have people go and tell them what to do, and he would stay home and they would go. But see, they're carrying his energy with them, and it'd always be another bullshit thing of like, well, of course it stopped working, you were looking at it. Like, yeah, because it's bullshit. So I'd love to meet the ghost. You have someone to hang out with. You can always hang out here. Oh, you're always free to talk to me anytime you want. All right. Anyways, what else does this guy say? Anything useful?
So, with that said, God's apparent hiddenness may not be evidence of his absence, but in fact, it may be evidence of his respect for human freedom.
That doesn't make sense.
Having given us that freedom through having moral agency.
What? How is that? That doesn't follow. Like, you still have agency even if you know there's a God, unless God is threatening you and or promising reward. Then your agency is gone, regardless if you know there is or isn't a God. Any character posited to say, okay, look, if you do this task, you will get this reward. That is an appeal to a bribe. If you don't do this task, you will face these terrible, horrible punishments. That is an ad bellum. That is an appeal to fear or a threat, appeal to force, appeal to the cudgel, appeal to the stick. Okay. So it doesn't matter if that's fictional or not fictional. That character has committed those fallacies. If you go to this castle, you will find the princess. There's an implied reward of, well, what does finding the princess do for you? Well, you found the princess. Okay. And she's like, hi, you found me. Congratulations. Go home. That's not how the story's supposed to go. The story's supposed to princess, you get to hook up with the princess, right? That's why you're after her, because you want some of that princess, you know what I'm saying? Anyways, but if you don't go, then this horrible goblin will eat you. And it's like, well, I don't want the goblin to eat me, so I guess I'm gonna go because I don't want the goblin to eat me. And I also get to meet the princess, and that's kind of neat, you know. But that's an appeal to a bribe and a appeal to a threat. Literally the carrot and the stick. So humans will make these offers all the time. And we've kind of based our laws around it in a way, like, hey, pay your taxes or else, what do I get if I do pay my taxes? Nothing. But if you don't, you get big problems. So there isn't always reward. If you work hard, do you get pay? Yes. If you don't work hard, do you get pay? Maybe. So there's not guarantee of the good stuff always in life, but we're not logical beings. So if you're positing a being that's supposed to be logical, then it cannot perform logical fallacies. So this God that you're describing, whether it's hidden or revealed, is still giving people logical fallacies to follow it or not follow it. If you follow me, you get this thing. If you don't follow me, you get this punishment. That's bribery and appeal to the stick. Although he hasn't mentioned that yet. He keeps avoiding that topic. It's there in the background, hidden. And I'm wondering if he's ever going to address this or not. And I could be wrong because I don't know the Mormon theology. Maybe the ad ballum isn't there. Maybe God doesn't appeal to the threat, but the bribery is still there. The appeal to the bribe of you will get this wonderful thing if you do X, Y, and Z is still there. Now, some people like to frame it as a non-bribe saying it's a consequence of you doing the thing. That's why you get the reward, or it's not an award. It's something everybody gets it. There's all sorts of ways you could try to get around it, but that's not how it's framed usually. But at any rate, it doesn't free your God of the problem. Liberty and eternal life, captivity and death. Okay, so I'm just I'm very frustrated because he's not on the topic, and I hate when people it's like oh my god, so much stuff that has nothing. He doesn't talk about it anymore, so now he's just on a different topic completely. I guess we'll keep going for now.
Here's something deeply important. The argument from evil assumes the existence of objective moral standards.
No, it doesn't. Now, see, I know he was going to do this, but see, it's not the argument of evil; it's the argument of pain and suffering. So, see, look, does suffering evil? Okay, so what about suffering? And he's just like, people suffer. The end. What about evil? Oh, evil assumes objective morality. No, it doesn't.
When someone says this suffering is wrong, they are not merely expressing preference. They are making a moral claim.
This suffering sucks ass. Now I'm not making a moral claim. I'm just stating a fact.
But if the universe is purely material, I would ask, where does wrong come from?
Humans. There you go. Thanks for the question. I answered it. Next.
Genocide is not just unfortunate, it is wrong.
Why, though? I mean, why is it wrong under your system? No, really. God ordered genocide plenty in the Bible. I don't know about the Book of Moroni or Book of Mormon or whatever. Maybe God didn't genocide in there, but he definitely did in the Old Testament. So why is that wrong? And it's fine when God tells you to do it, right? Yeah. Besides, all those people are going to heaven. Well, all the believers. Kill them all. Let God sort it out.
Abuse is not just unpleasant. It is wrong.
Well, it can be both.
C.S. Lewis once said,
Don't care.
"Alone I taught the Spirit of Christ."
All right. So whatever. The Spirit of Christ given to every man. Well, that doesn't appear true because we have sociopaths who don't know right from wrong, and we have serial killers. We have people that definitely do stuff that other people don't do. They don't appear to have this moral compass. So what happened? Did God forget them? Did the Spirit of Christ not get given to everybody?
Is given to every man, that he may know good from evil. That's Moroni
So yeah, that's more questions.
7, verse 16. Our moral institutions feel less like accidental byproducts of evolution and more like echoes of a real moral law written into our conscience. God
No, they are byproducts of evolution and group behavior, and whatever it feels like is irrelevant.
does not override agency, even when agency is used destructively, and that's because doing so would destroy the very conditions that make love and growth possible.
That's nice. So what about the flash flood or the landslide, or and again, what about the person that has no agency? Screw them.
Jeffrey R. Holland once
I
said,
don't care.
"In a world of agency, God will not stop you from hurting someone, but he will hold you accountable for it."
Will he though? I mean, if I hurt you, smack you around a bit, just smack you, slap you upside the face, and then slap you again a few times, just back and forth, And then I go, I'm sorry, God. Am I being held accountable anymore? I'm just asking how that works. Like if I smack you upside the head, and then I go, dear God, I'm sorry. Am I fine? How does it work?
This life is not the reward. This life is the formation. Quote, Viktor Frankl wrote, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how."
That's nice.
When suffering has meaning, endurance becomes possible.
Well, suffering may or may not have any meaning, and endurance may or may not be possible. So this does not follow. Non sequitur. None of this is an argument for anything.
End of quote. Meaning does not remove pain, but it transforms suffering from something merely destructive into something potentially refining.
No, it doesn't. It definitely doesn't. Not in the case of all the animals. And like I said, other things that might suffer. I don't know, fish or fowl or birds, other creatures. I don't know what can or can't feel pain, but it's like, look, it doesn't cover every possible condition that all living creatures have, including humans. It just doesn't. This is incomplete for an answer, and it's not even really an answer because your answer is, well, it's freedom. Okay, what does my personal freedom have to do with volcano erupting?
Latter-day Saint perspective is God's work and glory, the bringing to pass immortality and eternal life of his children.
So if you're part of the club, you get rewarded. That's nice.
Through having his children learning these laws of agency, choice, and refinement while living in a world where suffering must be present. I hope.
Yeah, that's pretty messed up.
You don't mind me sharing with you a personal experience.
Yeah, I do, actually. I don't want to hear it, so I'm going to skip it. Skip whatever you said. Don't care.
Anxious and impatient young man of 19 who is also...
You're still talking about it? Skip.
Or to the right side of...
Still talking about it? Skip. Don't care. Skip. Okay, all right. So AI drawn stuff, okay.
Here's an imagined picture of my son Gary.
Okay, whatever. Skip. All right. You should. Yeah, I know. You use AI for all this stuff. Okay. Anyway.
Kicking. We found out that he was no longer. I had became my throughout my life. Evil. Formative means character building, soul shaping, and growth.
Yeah, whatever. There's so many, there's so many times that it doesn't form character or anything like this. I think you're assuming way too much about suffering as a whole. And I don't know why forming character would be so damn important in the first place. Like, why does that matter? What do I need with that? The perfect world that we're supposedly going to be in, where there's no more suffering and no more pain. What did I need to go through all this for to get that? It doesn't add up. So here's the scenario. I kidnap you for a year. You don't ever get to see me though, or hear me. You hear a voice, or maybe there's a screen that has words. Even better, and it tells you instructions of what to do. Like you have to get through this maze or whatever. But there's all these things that poke you and prod you and torture you in different mental, physical ways, and it takes a year to get out, no matter what you do. Like. And so after all this torture and harm, and then you finally get to meet me outside. And I go, I'm the one responsible for all that. And if you give me a hug and tell me I love you, then I will give you this wonderful mansion, tax free. It will be yours. And I'll give you $1 million and beautiful women and men for you to have your way with. What do you say? I mean, maybe you'd say okay. Maybe you would do it just to get all that good stuff, right? Or maybe you'd be like, nah, screw you, man. But set all that aside. What kind of person would do that? Make you go through all that terrible hardship and then give you this wonderful reward. Is that a really good person or not? Does the good reward negate the bad stuff that I made you go through? Was it really worth all that? When you posit a God like this, you're not positing a good God. You're positing an incoherent God. Well, setting that aside, you're not positing a good God for sure, or anything I would call good. All right, so that's it. We're done. Yeah, he's got more. He doesn't say anything useful. He is suffering because that helps you grow as a person. Nonsense. All right, until next time, be skeptical, and after next time, stay skeptical, and don't burn cats. Only dogs. Screw dogs.